At 6:44 in the evening on April 6, 2026, Mission Control in Houston went silent. Not because something went wrong, because the Orion spacecraft carrying 4 astronauts had just slipped behind the moon, and the moon itself, 2,000 miles of solid rock, was now between them and every radio signal on Earth. For 40 minutes, no one could reach them. No data, no voice, no confirmation they were alive. Just silence, and the knowledge that 4 human beings were on the far side of the moon, completely alone, seeing things no human had seen in over 50 years. What they saw in those 40 minutes, and in the 7 hours surrounding them, is what this video is about. This is not a summary. This is a detailed account of exactly what happened, exactly what they described, and exactly why the scientists listening in Houston reacted the way they did. Their words, their observations, in order. Subscribe if you want content like this. Now let's go through it, moment by moment. Before the blackout started, something happened that stopped all 4 of them. The Orion spacecraft, named Integrity by the crew, had been flying over the moon's near side for several hours, approaching the terminator. The terminator is the boundary line between the sunlit half of the moon and the dark half. It is razor sharp in space, because the moon has no atmosphere to scatter light and blur the transition the way Earth's horizon glows at sunset. On the near side, the crew had been looking at features they recognized from training. They could pick out specific craters, named features, places they had spent 3 years studying in photographs and VR simulations. Then they crossed into territory that no human eye had clearly observed in this lighting, at this distance, in this geometry. Pilot Victor Glover pressed his face close to the window and started talking. He said, "Boy, I am loving the Terminator. There's just so much magic in the Terminator. The islands of light, the valleys that look like black holes. You'd fall straight to the center of the moon if you stepped in some of those. It's just so visually captivating." The science team in Houston erupted, not with whoops and cheers, scientists are quiet people, but with what NASA's own description called grins, nods, and lots of chatter in the science evaluation room. Because what Glover was describing is what scientists have spent decades trying to communicate. The Terminator is the single most scientifically valuable observational geometry on the moon. At low sun angles, shadows stretch out dramatically. Every small ridge, every crater rim, every geological feature throws a shadow that reveals its true height and shape in a way that overhead photography at high sun never can. Geologists call it shadow measurement. They use it to estimate the depth of craters, the height of mountain ranges, the age of surface features. And Glover was describing it in real time, with human eyes, from a perspective that no camera angle from any satellite had ever exactly replicated. He tried to say more and then stopped himself. Wow, I wish I had some more time to just sit here and describe what I'm seeing. Lunar science lead Kelsey Young radioed back from Houston. "Oh my gosh, that was an amazing picture you just painted. Those types of observations are things that humans are uniquely able to contribute, and you just really brought us along with you." Then they found the Oriental Basin. If you have never heard of the Oriental Basin, it is the structure on the moon that geologists consider one of the most important features in the solar system. It sits on the boundary between the near and far sides, mostly on the far side, mostly hidden from Earth's view. It is a nearly 600-mile wide impact scar, a multi-ringed basin formed 3.8 billion years ago when something large struck the young moon with catastrophic energy, sending shock waves through the crust that froze into the concentric ring pattern still visible today. It has been photographed by satellites. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has mapped it in extraordinary resolution. But the Artemis II crew was the first to see the entire basin in sunlight with human eyes, from directly above, at this distance and this angle. Mission Commander Reed Wiseman looked at it and tried to describe the annular ring, the innermost circular feature that defines the basin's structure. He said, "The annular ring, which I think everybody describes as a pair of lips or a kiss on the far side of the moon, from here is very circular in nature. The northern part of it is wider, darker. The southern part is much lighter. It is very neat looking. Far more circular than I remember it looking in our training. That last sentence is important. The training photographs did not capture what the real thing looked like from this vantage point. And then he started describing the colors. This is where the science team's reaction went from excited to genuinely surprised. The moon in every photograph you have ever seen is gray. Every image from every satellite, every Apollo photograph, every school book image, the moon is gray. From 4,000 miles away, looking directly down at the surface, the crew started describing browns, blues, greens on parts of the near side that bordered the Oriental Basin. Wiseman described brownish tones in the outer portions of Oriental. Glover described a crater basin with rings and ridges that he said looked like they had been dusted with chalk, or maybe dusted with snow. He said, "If this was the Earth, I would say there was snow dumped on some of the ridges on the interior of the rings." Christina Cook looked at the broader surface and told the science team, "The more I look at the moon, the browner and browner it looks." NASA's science team confirmed in real time that these color variations carry scientific information. The shades of brown and blue reveal mineral composition, which minerals are present, how old the surface is, whether volcanic material had erupted in a given region billions of years ago. The color observations from 4 human eyes, spoken live in real time, were giving scientists new data points they could cross-reference against decades of spectral satellite measurements. The science team was updating the observation plan in real time, redirecting the crew to new targets, asking follow-up questions, building a real-time dialogue that no robotic mission had ever created. Then the signal dropped. At 6:44 p.m. Eastern Time, Mission Control sent a final message. "Integrity, Houston. You are 6 minutes from your 40-minute lunar flyby loss of signal. From all of us, it's a privilege to witness you carry the fire past our farthest reach. Thank you. Godspeed." Victor Glover responded simply, "Thank you for that. And thank you to all of you for allowing us the immense privilege to be on this journey together." And then the moon swallowed them. The rock of the lunar far side, billions of years old, hammered by impacts, cold and airless, is dense enough to block every radio frequency NASA uses to communicate with its spacecraft. Light speed means nothing when solid rock is in the way. The deep space network dishes across Earth went quiet. The signal was gone. For 40 minutes, the 4 astronauts were on their own. What they did during those 40 minutes was not dramatically different from what they had been doing for the previous several hours. They kept observing. They kept photographing. But without the ability to radio their descriptions to Houston, they were gathering observations that only they would know until the signal came back. They also did one other thing. Jeremy Hansen had brought maple cream cookies onto the spacecraft specifically for this moment. As soon as communication dropped and they were truly alone behind the moon, all 4 of them gathered together and shared the cookies. A small human ritual at the most isolated moment in human spaceflight in over half a century. They were also watching Earth disappear. Just before the blackout, the spacecraft cameras captured what NASA called Earthset, Earth slipping below the lunar horizon from the crew's perspective. The entire planet, every city, every ocean, every person alive, everything, dropping behind the edge of the moon and disappearing. At 7 p.m., the spacecraft reached its closest approach to the lunar surface, 4,067 miles above the ground, racing at 60,863 miles per hour relative to Earth. 2 minutes after that, they reached the mission's maximum distance from home, 252,756 miles from Earth. Farther than any human being had ever been. Farther than Apollo 13. Farther than anyone in the history of the species. And 2 minutes after breaking the record, still behind the moon, still in silence, they watched Earth reappear. Earthrise. The crescent of the planet, tiny, soft blue lit from one side, emerging over the curved horizon of the moon. After 40 minutes of being farther from Earth than anyone had ever been, and completely cut off, that first glimpse of their planet again came from behind the lunar horizon. When the signal reacquired at 7:25 p.m. and Houston could hear them again, Christina Cook was the first to speak. She said, "It is so great to hear from Earth again." That sentence landed in Mission Control like a fist. Not dramatic, not performed, just true. What came next, the solar eclipse, was something nobody in the history of human spaceflight had experienced quite this way. The moon, the spacecraft, and the sun aligned. On Earth, a total solar eclipse is magnificent and lasts a few minutes at most. The moon is just barely large enough from Earth's surface to cover the solar disk. Totality passes quickly. From 4,000 miles closer to the moon, the geometry was different. The moon appeared larger. It covered the sun completely, and totality lasted 54 minutes. 54 consecutive minutes of the moon blocking the sun, from the vantage point of a spacecraft carrying 4 humans on the far side of the moon. Glover looked at it and said 3 words. "We just went sci-fi." Then he tried to describe what he was seeing. You can actually see a majority of the moon. It is the strangest looking thing. You can see so much on the surface. He was describing Earthshine, light reflected off Earth landing on the moon's dark side, giving the lunar surface a faint, ghostly illumination visible during totality. The moon was lit by the reflected light of Earth during an eclipse. The solar corona appeared around the rim of the darkened moon. The sun's outermost atmosphere, normally invisible because the sun's surface is billions of times brighter, revealing itself as a glowing halo with delicate structures reaching outward. The crew described them as streamers, and they called some structures baby hairs. Reed Wiseman looked at it for a long time and then said, "No matter how long we look at this, our brains are not processing this image in front of us. It is absolutely spectacular, surreal. There's no adjectives. I'm going to need to invent some new ones." Stars appeared in the dark sky around the eclipsed sun. Venus burned bright on the left side of the moon. Mars was visible. Saturn. The crew could see 3 planets, the corona of the sun, the illuminated lunar surface, and their own planet's crescent all simultaneously through the same window. And then, in the dark of the eclipse, watching the unlit side of the moon, the crew started reporting something. Flashes. Brief, instantaneous points of light on the dark lunar surface. Space rocks, some the size of a grain of sand, some larger, hitting the moon at tens of thousands of miles per hour. No atmosphere to slow them down, just direct impact, and a flash of light as kinetic energy converts instantly into heat. Wiseman radioed to Houston. "We have seen 3 impact flashes so far. I saw 2, Jeremy has seen 1, and Jeremy just saw another one. Undoubtedly quick impact flashes. It was definitely not sun glint off a particulate from the thrusters. It was definitely impact flashes on the moon." By the time they finished counting, the crew had reported 6 confirmed meteoroid impact flashes. The science team's response from Houston was, "Incredible news," because it was. The moon is constantly being struck by debris from space. Every astronaut who lives on the moon in the future, every habitat built on the surface, every piece of equipment left outside, all of it faces this bombardment. Understanding how frequently it happens, how large the impactors are, what the energy levels look like, that is not academic. It is a safety question for the humans who will eventually live there. 6 confirmed impacts in under an hour of observation, from one vantage point, covering a small fraction of the total surface. After 7 hours, the flyby was over. The crew began their turn toward home. Reed Wiseman called down to the science team and thanked them for putting together, as he described it, some great, truly human experience moments. Lunar science lead Kelsey Young responded, "I cannot say enough how much science we have already learned, and how much inspiration you have provided to our entire team, the lunar science community, and the entire world with what you were able to bring today. You really brought the moon closer for us today, and we cannot say thank you enough." Young was talking about science, but she was also talking about something that cannot be measured in data. The difference between seeing a photograph of something and having a person standing in front of it trying to find words. For 3 years, those 4 astronauts trained on photographs, VR simulations, flat images on flat screens. And then they flew to the moon, looked at it with their own eyes from 4,000 miles, and realized the photographs had not quite captured it. The annular ring of Oriental was more circular than they remembered from training. The Terminator was the most rugged thing any of them had ever seen from a lighting perspective. The moon was browner, fuller, more textured, more real. Victor Glover, looking at the Terminator, speaking to an island of light surrounded by shadow. "Boy, I am loving the Terminator. There's just so much magic." Christina Cook, coming back from the far side, hearing Earth's voices again. It is so great to hear from Earth again. Reed Wiseman, watching the eclipse. There's no adjectives. Those are not lines from a movie. Those are four people describing what they saw behind the moon, in real time, for the first time in over 50 years. And now you know exactly what they saw. If this video gave you something real, hit like, share it with someone who would have stayed for every second of it, and subscribe. We are covering the next steps of this program as they happen. Stay curious.